In this section, we are discussing one more topic called JSX. We have already seen what JSX is. It is basically the HTML written inside the JavaScript file. But still, we need to know few more details about JSX. Inside JavaScript, let's say if you declare a variable like this, let message is equal to, if I say a string, then we put a double quotes. But in React, you see that there might be an element returned like this. Say for example, I write h1. Here, there is no string given. Still it will work. Let's see this. I'm going to say hi and I'm going to end this h1 here. So this message is actually containing some HTML. Now when you see this kind of text, you may correlate this with some templating engine. But this is what JSX is. And JSX is actually powered with all the features of JavaScript. So here, if I just want to display this MSG, the only thing I have to do is I give the curly brackets and give MSG. So the message hi is displayed on the screen. Even if you want to add some dynamic value to JSX, you use the curly bracket. Let me take another variable. Let name is equal to React 17. Now this name, if I want to show as part of this JSX, I'm going to open the curly bracket and I'll write name here and I will end it. So here you see that React 17 is displayed. In fact, inside the JSX, you can write any JavaScript expression. Let's add two variables here. Instead of name, I'll say let a is equal to 5 and let b is equal to 6. Now here, instead of name, I'll simply say a plus b. So now you see that a plus b is 11. So the value, the expression of JavaScript can be written as part of the JSX. Let's also try one more functionality. Instead of this a and b, I can also write, let's say new date, and I'm going to display to date string, and which is a method. So now you see that the date is displayed here. So these are the various ways you can use this JSX. You can also specify attributes with JSX, but those are like object literal. For example, I just want to give blue color to this h1. So here, when I give the h1, I can say style. This you can see in one of the video in the same tutorial called applying inline styling. But let me try here as well. So I'll say style is equal to. Now I put the curly bracket for dynamic values, and inside this I'm going to write another object literal where I will say color is blue. So now the data which is displayed is in blue color. So the attributes also can be written with JSX. The only thing you have to take care is when you are writing JSX, it is more near to JavaScript than HTML. It also means when you write attribute like tab index in HTML like this, instead of that, with JSX, you are going to use the camel case. So you will say tab index. So in HTML, we generally use the class, whereas in JSX, how do we use it? We use class name in camel case. So these are few things which we see different compared to HTML. Otherwise, JSX is very similar to the HTML you are writing. The JSX is also a JavaScript expression. For example, you have a function and inside the function you have some process, and at the end you want to return the JSX. So you can write like this. The official document of React says that JSX prevents injection attacks as the values are embedded in JSX before rendering. So you can never inject anything that's not explicitly written in your application. All said and done, In fact, JSX is an easier way or syntactic sugar. The actual function running behind is react.createElement. So whenever you write JSX for one element, there is a react.createElement getting executed in the background. So here for this very same example, let me remove this date at the moment. If you do not want to write JSX like this one, you can also go with the createElement method, which was an older way and still it is getting executed behind the scene. It can be like this. So let MSG which you have here, let me just show you how it will be written. I'm writing it here at the bottom, but then I will replace this JSX and put this particular line there. So let MSG is equal to react dot create element. In the brackets you give the element name. That is the first thing. Second, if you have any attribute, then you are going to mention, like here we have style. If there is no attribute, you can pass null here. But because we have the attribute, let me just say the attribute is style and the value is, that is an object literal given. So I am going to say color blue. The next thing is what is the content of the element, the one which you are creating. What is the content? The content is, for example, I'm going to say hello at the moment, right? So that you will see a different message. Now this is how the JSX can be written with the core method. Now let me just cut this portion. I'll remove this let MSG. Now observe this. I'm going to remove the JSX also, and instead of that, I'll just paste the react.createElement. That's it. Now you see that just react.createElement, the H1 is created. The color, let me change it to red so that you get the clear idea, right? So createElement is the method which is getting executed behind the scene. Before JSX, this is how the elements used to be created by developers directly. So these are few additional information about JSX which can be helpful in the overall React development. Now let's discuss few questions about this topic. The first question is, what is JSX? As we have already seen, the one which you see right now, the code, MSG is kind of variable, but it is containing the HTML element. Now the code which you have written, the HTML code that is inside the JavaScript. So any code which appears like HTML and written inside JavaScript is the JSX code. The next question is, how do you display the content of JSX? So right now you see that there is MSG variable and the element is not written inside any string. It is directly the HTML which is assigned to MSG. Now when it comes to display the content of MSG, how do you do that? You use curly brackets and write the JSX there, so it will display the content. Next question is, what will be the output for the below given code? Now we have already discussed that inside the JSX you can write any JavaScript expression. Whenever it comes to having a dynamic value, you also put curly brackets inside the JSX. So here when I say a plus b, it is going to execute the JavaScript expression, so the output will be 30. Let's move to the next question. What is the advantage of using JSX? JSX prevents injection attacks as the values are embedded in JSX before rendering. So you can never inject anything that's not explicitly written in your application. The last question which I want to discuss is, write the react.createElement method for the given JSX. Now this I have already shown you earlier as well, but let's try it once again. So the best way is that you create a variable which is going to contain the element, and I'm going to say create element, where the very first thing is you define the HTML element. Here you are going to say style because it is the object literal. I'm going to say color red, and the last thing is the content you want to show. So I'll say hello here. Now this very content you want to show, let's say, inside this division. So again, I'm going to open the curly brackets and want to display the dynamic value. So this is how the JSX is converted into the React.createElement syntax.